Thank you. All right, I got cats on the screen. So this is a new laptop. I used to have a MacBook, and I'm excited about the Windows subsystem for Linux going on at Microsoft right now. By excited, I mean I'm interested. And so I wanted to challenge myself to use a Microsoft Windows laptop. If it didn't work out, I'd probably install Ubuntu or something like that. I got it working to a good extent. Ruby's on there. Jekyll's working, to my amazement. And I call it the dark side laptop. I couldn't get an Empire sticker before today. But to christen the laptop, I went to Pixabay and got all the swaggiest kitties. If you ever heard of Pixabay, it's it's a great source for images and everything you can use for anything, including selling it on a website or something like that. So free to use. Anyways, that's unrelated. Can you hear me okay? Okay, cool. So I need to drag this over there. Do a little bit of that. That didn't work. Where did my mouse go? Here we go. Like every piece of advice Kimberly's ever given me, I've just ignored. Okay. So I'm going to do. That didn't work. Come on. Oh, let's go back one. So my name is Joe Matthews. Twitter is on the screen. Joe Matthews OKC. Slack for Techlahoma is on the screen at Joe Matthews. And so I'm actually very new to Techlahoma and all the communities. This is my first time stepping into the OKC Ruby. And, members, hello. And so I'm excited. So John posted, is anyone willing to do the talk? And I raised my hand by mistake. And so here I am. I have 4 years of experience in full stack web development. And, 2 kids, yeah, and they recently graduated, very recently. And I want to be honest, the time crunch situation, I was doing this presentation in my jammies this morning. So, and I also noticed that Google Slides is kind of strict about images. And so there's some images, that, didn't pop up, so I had to substitute. It's kind of fun. In general, though, it's pretty simplistic, and I think you'll enjoy it. What else? Let's get started. All right, it worked. Okay. It didn't switch on this screen. That makes me nervous. Get back over here. I don't trust this anymore. Okay. Let me try that. That didn't work. Oh, no. Okay, we'll figure this out. So I think I just deleted my interest line. It's back. And, oh my God, this is not great software. Thank you, Google. I'm sorry, Kimberly. Oh, there we go. Maybe it'll help if I take it out of here. It might also help if I don't use Microsoft Edge. All right, let's go back. There we go. Yeah. Man. Jeez. 1 second. While we're waiting, I'm wondering how many people here raise their hands if they've programmed before. Be honest. Oh, you guys set me up. All right. So, let me get this going again. Work, please. I'm just trying to see if it switches. Oh, it's not switching. Oh man, hold on. An error occurred while attempting to connect to the server. Ooh, I blame the Wi-Fi. Hold on. I'm gonna have to hustle through this. I actually didn't time the presentation. I thank you all for your patience. And so we could be good. All right. Let me double check. Oh, lesson learned about using Google Slides. Here it comes. Hold on. And so, can I get a raise of hands? How many are actually Ruby developers? In the chat? On Slack? Everybody? All right. All right. So, let's do present. I got this figured out, guys. I'm going to be a Google developer next year. I can't blame Google for this. I really can't. Oh, man. Oh. Oh, geez. Oh. Help me out here, guys. Who wants to talk about something else? All right. Oh, here we go. I got it. I got it. Yeah. Don't cheer yet. Okay, I got at least this far. Okay, so intro to Ruby. That's where we're at. And so, what exactly is Ruby? So from Wikipedia, Ruby is a dynamic, interpreted, reflective, or object-oriented, general-purpose programming language. Yes. And so, to most, that's accurate, but begs more questions than it answers. And for someone new, it's just completely what? And so, moving on. What exactly is Ruby? So from Wikipedia, Ruby is a dynamic, oh, hold on, I already said that. Hold on, guys. Come on, give me a break. This is bad sitch, guys. Is there a Google Slides professional? Oh, what? What does that OK's message say? Guys, this presentation is going to get so much better really quickly. Where? I can't find my mouse, man. There it is. There it is. Woo. Preview. Okay. All right. All right, so from RubyLang or rublang.org, typo. So that is actually rubylang.org. Ruby is a dynamic, open source programming language with a focus on simplicity and productivity. It has an elegant syntax that is natural to read and easy to write. I like that definition better. And so let's talk about the creator a little bit and what his definition is. And so, I'm getting this, guys. And so, a little bit about the joy of Ruby. And so, to give a little bit of background first, sorry. Oh man, I'm gonna have to plow through this. Okay. I've actually lost this slide. So, Yukihiro Matsumoto is also known as Matz, is the creator of Ruby, and he created back in 1993, and in 95, he started creating it in 1993. In 95, he released it to the world. That time, Perl had been out for 5 years, maybe more, 6, and then Python had been around for 3 years. And so the -1 you see on there stands for Matz is nice, and so we are nice. And that's kind of a motto of the Ruby peeps. So let me keep going. All right, the joy of Ruby. And so I don't have my notes. I might have my notes. I'm not going to mess with my notes. I want to say Scala developer interviewed Matz, and one of the questions he asked Matz was about the joy of Ruby. And so Matz in the past said it was a joy to program in Ruby. He's like, why is that? And he said, I want to solve problems I meet in the daily life by using computers, so I need to write programs. By using Ruby, I want to concentrate on the things I do, not the magical rules of the language. I just want to concentrate on the task. That's the basic idea. So I have tried to make Ruby concise and succinct. I learned how to pronounce succinct recently. It's challenging. Why did Matz want a new language? Okay. So this is a little bit of harshness here, a little bit of a burn. So he says in a message to the Ruby mailing list, I was talking with my colleagues about the possibility of an object-oriented scripting language, a new Perl 4, not 5, but I did not like it really because it had the smell of a toy language it still has. That's some harsh stuff. All right. What else we got? I knew Python then, but I didn't like it because I didn't think it was a true object-oriented language. Our object-oriented features appear to be add-on to the language. That's a little less harsh. I really wanted a genuine object-oriented, easy-to-use scripting language. I looked for but could not find one, so I decided to make one. I think he did his due diligence. Ouch, burn. And so, I hinted on it earlier. Perl came out 5 years before that, Python 3. And, if we think about that, then, both of those languages have, developed and evolved to something that is, something different than what Matz was looking at. And so I know a close Python friend, Pythonista, and even he'll agree, back in those days it was a little rough, but Matz created his own language, and I think if you can create a language, why not, right guys? So let's talk about that. So this is kind of a little analogy I made, to kind of understand why these languages were made. You had Bash. And I think if I remember right, like Perl could do more string links than Bash, more characters. Is also faster, better, stronger, cooler. And then Python, I didn't like that every Python or every Perl program just looked completely different, even though it solved the same problem. And so Python fixed that. And Python is a beautiful language. It's also easy to learn. Ruby, I think we already heard about that. And so, Matz gave his explanation. The thing I want to emphasize there is simplicity, ease of use, and kind of just the general joy of programming in Ruby. So many questions. I think there's at least one in here. My beautiful fiance, Rebecca, who has not programmed before. She's wanting to learn. Her name is Becca Codes on Twitter. Hashtag follow her. She's cool. And there could be so many questions for new developers. What is a scripting language? What is an object-oriented language? What is a dynamic language? What is an interpreted language? What makes language general purpose? Which language is best for my project? Will I waste my time if I learn the wrong language? What does a free and open source software mean? Ooh, that's a big one. And why didn't I go to sleep last night? Because I was thinking of all those things. And so that brings me to the rabbit hole. And I had a quote, but I'll try to paraphrase. I went to Quora, and someone succinctly answered that question. And, in Alice in Wonderland, Alice goes down into the rabbit hole, and things just get crazy quick. Just get crazy. And so it's an alternate reality. And so I say rabbit hole to represent that feeling of getting overwhelmed and losing your sense of the goal that you set out to seek. And so that applies to every language, and I kind of wanted to emphasize that a good solution for this is to pick a first language, Ruby, and then learn it well, And in the process of learning it well, once you find that rabbit hole, you can better navigate it more slowly. Meanwhile, picking up more languages and skills and, just awesome stuff along the way. But in general, it's okay to dive in, just swim around a little bit, but sometimes it can disrupt goals a little bit. Resources for learning Ruby. Everybody wants to know. And so this is a poignant guide to Ruby, I believe is what it's called. And I don't remember the author's name. I think it's basically an on it. Why? I know it's why, but what's the Why's Poignant Guide to Ruby? What's his full name? Why the Lucky Stiff. And so it says, Ruby is easy to read. Is this like some kind of infomercial, like an info book or a book commercial or something? Our careers are so over. But it's a free book, don't worry. You're not being advertised to right now. And so the next one, which was one of those, copyrighted, trademarked front covers, was the Learn to Program Ruby. And so I forgot to mention, these are all the books that I learned in the order that I learned them. And this one was my, I think it's actually just called Learn to Program. And so it teaches programming concepts, and it uses Ruby to do it. And that was in comparison to this bad boy, the Pickaxe Ruby book. So Programming Ruby, the Pragmatic Programmer's Guide. And so this book really does go through a lot, and it goes through it a little quickly. And so I was switching back and forth for a little while, just going, go here, get bored, get scared, get bored. And I think two of those books really helped. But there are online interactive resources for Ruby, even back when I learned. Let's go through these. Try Ruby. And, this is a pretty cool resource. I didn't know about it, but it's actually on I believe it's the Ruby GitHub.io. That's hosted there. So I think it's an official Ruby project, and it's interactive. And it's very similar to the Go tutorial and other languages. And it's pretty cool that's up there and allows you to learn Ruby in 30 minutes, is its claim to fame. The Ruby Monk, have not used it. Sounds interesting, but it's also free. There's 4 lessons, I think, and they all get gradually harder. And I have to recommend it. The Odin project, and I looked at the repository for this on GitHub, and I think this was available back when I was learning, or at least shortly after. And but I think there's a lot of recent activity, and this looks really polished. Goes over web fundamentals, Ruby, Rails, a whole bunch of stuff, and so. Really cool project to check out if you have it not checked that out. It also, if I could have compared it to anything, is free code school. And I think that's really cool that that's available for the Ruby community. Exorcism.io. Exorcism.io. And so this website is my favorite, and I'm just partial. It's written in Ruby on Rails. I think maybe just Ruby. I don't know. But this particular website, I think, is amazing. You basically download challenges. They give you the tests, which is nice because no one likes to write tests, but it teaches you how. And then you run those tests. You enable them one at a time, and you write code. You just write code until it works. Sometimes that's just outputting a string and be like, there you go. But what that allows you to do is to kind of it works pathways in your brain you wouldn't even understand. And so this is not an interactive one where you can just do it all online. You have to have Ruby installed and go through the installation instructions on the site. But it's an amazing resource, and I can't recommend it enough. And so you work through the exercise, just get it working, push it, see what others did. You can do that after you push it up there. And then take what you learned from what others did and see if you can improve it, and look at your resources. famous companies that use Ruby, obligatory slides, and I love it. Twitter's on there, and so Twitter uses a lot of technologies to serve their 300 million customers or consumers or no users. There it is, a day, and that's a tall task. And so, but Ruby is in the cornerstone of their history. And then we got Twitch. So hi Twitch. And so Twitch also uses Ruby, and we all know what Twitch does because we're using it right now. Shopify. So Shopify allows shoppers and just small businesses, even large businesses, to connect with those shoppers. Kickstarter, RIP Pebble, Indiegogo. Not Kickstarter, but very similar. I haven't used Indiegogo. Both of those use Ruby. Hulu, great site. Can't afford it, but it's there if you need it. I think they have Family Guy and I don't know, Game of Thrones. Is that? No, I don't know. I shouldn't say. Heroku. So this is a kind of historic Ruby site. And I think Matz, the creator of Ruby, actually still works for Heroku. I want to think it was bought by somebody. Was it Microsoft? Tell me it wasn't Microsoft. Salesforce, there it is. No comment. But Heroku is a great site and allows you to post many different types of web apps, I think, not just Ruby anymore. And you get your website out there, and does a lot, not necessarily a lot of the hard work, but it does a lot of the scary work for you. Groupon, connecting shoppers and discounts. Also use Ruby. GitLab, my favorite. Let's talk about GitLab. So GitLab is from the underdogs, from the underlands, and that's the Netherlands. And they're worldwide now, and it's a great option other than GitHub. GitHub's great too. And so GitLab, you can actually host your own server, work environments all over the country, the world use GitLab to host their repositories. And I really like their service. Oh, wait. There it is, GitHub. And so Microsoft recently bought GitHub, and it is, I do believe it's still a Ruby on Rails app. And also the co-founder created Jekyll, which is one of my favorite static site generators. And I actually use it to post the notes for this, which you might want to read because I'm missing a lot of stuff, guys. DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is very much like Heroku, allows you to host your site, and their documentation alone, their tutorials make them, an honorary, not honorary, like a true member of the internet community. Coinbase, so you can get your Bitcoin legally, and so Coinbase is based on Ruby on Rails, I believe. There's Basecamp. I couldn't find an image for Basecamp. This is, one of those things where I was like, I'm finding all these images through Google Slides, and I guess none of them are trademarked. If they are, it's Google Slides' fault. This is the only image of Basecamp I could find. So Basecamp is also a historic site for Ruby, and it allows companies to better manage their projects in a more human way. And so, moving on. Airbnb, whether you're in the basement, whether you're the property owner of a basement, a whole house, or a whole island, you can find the vacationers that are looking to rent from you. Amazing projects written in Ruby. Finally, let's talk about it. Homebrew. Who likes Homebrew? Anybody? Yeah, I got some hands up. Homebrew is a Ruby terminal app, and it allows Mac to not be like Windows, and I think we can all appreciate that. It installs the software that Apple didn't, I think is its slogan, and I really love Homebrew. Vagrant, love Vagrant, love it. And so Vagrant allows you to create, reliable, reusable development environments, whether you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux. And so Vagrant is that weird thing where it's like you can do a full-blown Ruby application, any language, any language, and set up a virtual machine through Vagrant, and it kind of just works. I haven't used it too much. Both, my coworker and I, switched to Mac, and that works too because we're both using Homebrew, and we both follow the same, guidelines and stuff like that. But Vagrant's pretty quick for onboarding new developers. And Jekyll, couldn't find image of Jekyll. Jekyll, my favorite static site generator. It's mostly my favorite because it allows you to host websites for free on GitHub, and I love that. You can also host any website on GitHub, but Jekyll allows you to basically put Markdown up there, and GitHub will automatically convert it for you without forcing you to use source code in the GitHub repository. I think that's a little unfair. I think that GitHub should allow other static site generators on board, but Jekyll is one of the best and one of the first. Chef. Haven't personally used Chef, but it's very popular for automating setup of complicated things thousands of times. And so it's automation library. I think Puppet is as well. Haven't used it. That's the only image I could find of Puppet. But those are very, very popular with the enterprise crowd. Discourse. So Discourse, I couldn't find an image of it. These guys are talking, I think. This is what happened when I typed in Discourse. This popped up. Discourse is a Ruby application that allows you to easily set up a forum. And that's a hard thing to do. And it looks great. Libraries and tools written in Ruby. All right. RubyGems. RubyGems is amazing. I think in, was it 2005 it became a part of the standard library? Personally, and that's just my opinion, I think RubyGems sets Ruby apart as being ahead in the race of having a great library system. There's newer languages out there doing it well, but I think RubyGems is pretty cool. I don't have any problems with it. And Bundler. Bundler is like lithium. It keeps you sane. And so you have projects, and it'll keep track of all the gems and all the versions, and that is not something you want to do on your own. Rake. Rake is also very awesome. Rake will allow you to do dependency. So it's a task management library, or just a task library, I guess. And so you can set it up to run tasks, but those tasks depend on other tasks. And combined with cron or just your imagination, Rake can do amazing things. And I don't know if you can hear I don't know if you hear the trend by here, choo choo, chugga chugga. Rack. And so Rack is a interface for HTTP that provides an API that makes sense. And so you can work with HTTP, and it gives you back information that you can use immediately. And so, does anyone hear that train? Let's discuss the 125-ton locomotive in the room. I looked up how much a train weighs, and that's what came up in Google. Ruby on Rails. And so when I think of Ruby on Rails, I think of this. It's just, it's a little OP and a little gross at the same time, but I love it. I use it at work, and there's a lot of, I would say it's the most popular, the most controversial, and just the most profitable front-end web framework. I don't have no numbers for that, guys. So DHH. Oh, help me out here, guys. DHH's name. David Heinemeier Hansen. So Mr. Hansen. And so DHH is very influential in the Ruby community for his creation of the Ruby on Rails framework. And so I'm bad with names, just to help you out with that. He's done a lot for the community. He's controversial in that he subscribes to is it do it once? Dry. Don't repeat yourself. So don't repeat yourself, and configuration over convention over configuration. I was going to get there eventually. So DRY and COC, and he has a whole list of other ones that are in his. Oh man, hold on. I'm just going to scroll to it. Okay. DHH. I'm a notes heavy kind of guy. I type it and then I dump it. All right. So don't repeat yourself, convention over configuration, and the Rails doctrine. So the Rails doctrine is lengthy and explicit, and it kind of defines the direction of Rails going to the future. But Rails in general is designed to do as much convention, to give you as many tools as possible to make your job easier, in favor of progress, even over stability. So it's controversial in that regard, and he holds to it. There's a tweet from DHH in 2013. I've always called them DHH guys. The secret to productivity is not finding more time to do stuff, but finding the strength to do less of the stuff that doesn't need doing. And so some good Rails resources, if you're wanting to learn Rails, is the Ruby on Rails tutorial by Michael Hartle and the Odin project that we mentioned before. I think Ruby on Rails is a great example of extending the capabilities of Ruby through gems and meta programming. And so, what else we got? So my opinion, you can't see that slide. Let me do that. Oh, TLDR, I missed that one. So too long didn't read. Ruby is a great first language. That's the audience I'm speaking to. You pick Ruby up, and it feels like it's talking back to you at sometimes. You type, and you feel like you are speaking another language. It's hard to explain. It feels natural. You'll read it in the books. It's like a Twilight Zone type of situation, but the language feels good. It makes sense. They have the Ruby Docs website. You can search for all sorts of information on the standard library. If you type in anything into Google, it will just pop up before you finish typing. The Ruby documentation, tons of stuff on how to set up web servers and stuff like that all over the internet. It's a supported community. I love it. My time learning Ruby has helped me more easily learn other languages. I'm also doing a free Code Camp norming group. Now, I'm not a JavaScript expert, and that language is a little riley, but I'm loving it. So my experience with Ruby, I think, can get me through some of the confusing parts, that anyone would have, jumping right into JavaScript or moving on from a different language. I already said no shortage of help online. My honest opinion is that dynamic scripting languages like Perl, Python, Ruby, and Node.js make great first languages because of their versatility. This is a little bit of my, a lot of opinion here. Of these four, I can only recommend Python and Ruby. You can ask me if you'd like why I don't prefer the other two. And to a friend, as their first language, I would recommend Ruby. I have a bias towards Ruby, but Python is also a very, very good language. And so, And so that's the website, ruby.github.io/tryruby, and that'll get you in there. That's from the Ruby people themselves. How are we doing on time? Not great. And so do we have time, Kimberly? 15 minutes? Okay, cool. So I'm wondering if I can go over to the website itself. Because I have a feeling that some may want to know how it looks, what Ruby looks like. So GitHub.io. Oh, I messed that up already. So let's share my screen. I'm using Microsoft Edge, by the way. Don't judge. Let's see here. Okay. That is not what I wanted to do. Here we go. All right. Shot in the dark, try Ruby, there it is. It's already pretty big. Whoa. Why not? Okay. You know, got 30 minutes, give Ruby a shot right now. The beauty of Ruby is found in its balance between simplicity and power. So, you know, run, executes the code, copies the example of code, next, back, clear. And so, I guess I already did this one. Click next to start learning, because I already did this. So in this one, it says 3 times do print welcome. And so, you know, that 3 is an integer. You know, the integer has, I believe, a method times. And so that allows it to have a function that passes it over to, I'm really calling myself out here. But I don't use it often, but 3 times do is an example of the expressiveness of Ruby. So let's go to next. Okay, we're gonna go scroll back up. All right, for the example, try typing some math, like 2 + 6. Any recommendations? Oh. Let's see, 5 times 90, then modulo 2. Why not? Okay. That's exactly what I expected. All right, you did a bit of math. See how the answer popped out? Where did it pop out at? Okay. Here we go. Ruby recognized numbers and mathematics symbols. You could try some other math, like 4 times 10, 5 minus 12, 3 divided by 4, or next. Putting it differently. Did you notice that if you typed more than one formula, you only saw the number for the last one? What's going on? I didn't do it, so I don't know. To make this website easier, okay, so I guess it does it every time. Yeah, so it executes a new Ruby instance every time, I believe. So you're not going to see it like you would in a terminal, an IRB. I can share IRB. Bash. Oh, why did I choose Bash? So I want to use a Windows subsystem for Linux. It's the new thing. So IRB. And so you can do anything in here. So that's that 2 + 2. And there's 4. I don't know what I did, but 9 times 8 modulo 2, something like that. Still 0. And so, moving on. So let's try these things. Now remove the puts from the last formula and see what happens. Okay. Okay. So last one would be this. Oh my gosh, 30 divided by 4. I forgot what it was trying to test. Run. 7.5, well put. Punny. So puts is interesting. So print line in most programming languages throws a new line in there. You know, print will just print it. And Ruby prints it, with no new line, and print line doesn't exist as far as I know. And so you'd use puts. And so puts, I think, is a carryover from maybe Perl Lisp. I don't know for sure. Okay. Say your name, Jimmy, Joe, Ron. Perfect. You formed a string from the letters of your name. There's other ways to do strings. Do it like that as well. Whoop. Double quotes has advantages. You can inject Ruby code into it. So Jimmy.reverse. So this is interesting. Just to explain what's going on here. Because there's no functions above it, this just works. And so I think it's similar in JavaScript as well. And so you have Jimmy, which is a string, and the string has methods, and so little bits of functionality, just like functions. And so these class methods for string class has a reverse function, and that goes through and reverses that string. And so you don't have to write that code; it's in the standard library. I think we know how that's going to turn out. Jimmy.length is very similar. It'll actually get the length of it. So how many characters are in there? Let's do it. Okay. And one thing you might notice as well is that I can do this if I'd like, and it'll look a little bit more like Python. Python that's using methods for their class. And so most Ruby programmers will leave parentheses out. They'll leave anything they can out. It frustrates my Python friend to no end. But that's a feature of the language. And Ruby has that functionality of allowing you to do things the way you want to do to a certain extent. Not so much as JavaScript sometimes, but in general, syntax is very flexible, so you can kind of keep things, in that 80-character limit at the same time, annoy your coworkers. It's really fun. That's a joke. Don't do that. So Jimmy times 5 allows you saying you can do math on strings. This is actually going to print out Jimmy 5 times. So do it times 5. Let's go ahead and run that. And so I didn't put a space in there, but do it. I guess it'd be do. Moving on. 40 reverse. Okay. So methods mean action. Wants to remind me of that. Okay. Okay, let's do something uncomfortable. Try reversing a number. That does sound uncomfortable. I'm not even sure what that's going to do. But I think it's going to turn it into a string, which also makes me uncomfortable. No method error, thank you. So we get an error, no method error, undefined method for reverse, which is an integer. And so integer does not have a method for reverse. And those errors are good, because debugging is good. Stop, you're barking mad. You can't reverse the number 40. I guess you can hold your monitor up to the mirror, but reversing a number, it just doesn't make sense. And that's where I thought they were going with that. So 40 to string, reverse. So 2s is that shorthand for to string. In many cases, Ruby uses full-length words for things, but I think to string is used a lot when casting anything to a string. And so they use the shorthand 2s. And so that's going to turn 40 into quotes 40. Let's move on. Let's see some more. So we're moving on to lists. While you can use methods on any object in Ruby, some methods only work on certain types of strings. But you can always convert between different types using Ruby's to methods. And so that was a little hint to that. So 2s, 2i, 2a stands for to string, to integer, to array. And so what are arrays? I was about to ask the same question because you didn't explain that. And so they are lists. Type in a pair of brackets, okay. I think it's going to just give me back the same thing. Yeah, great, that's an empty list. And so, that object now exists, and there you have it. Okay, standing in line. Okay, list arrays store things in some order. Like standing in line behind someone, you wouldn't dream pushing them aside, right? And the guy lets you, you've got close an eye on, right? Okay, here's a list for you, lottery numbers. Try adding a number to the list. Type a comma after 35 followed by a number. Oh, okay, so yeah, you can do 1 and then later go 5. And I don't think anyone should do that unless you're doing a constant or something. Does anyone have any questions? I forgot to ask. At this point, with this advanced crowd, I'm waiting for some hardball questions. Not from you. That's cheating. Oh, that's a good question. So at work, we use Ruby and Rails and Rake tasks and all sorts of fun stuff to do a web server for our logistics shipping application. And so we're able to monitor Oracle exports. We get that. We put into a Postgres database. Postgres is awesome, guys. Don't use any other database. It is great, though. And then from Postgres, we go to our Rails server, and our Rails server will then pull that information through Active Record, which is a crazy library by DHH himself. I don't know if he still writes it, but it's pretty cool. And so we have a Postgres gem, and through some magic of convention over configuration, it allows us to have basically full access to our data with the correct key, and then we put that online. And so we have several thousand users worldwide, all internal, so I can't put my name on the board as far as the company using Ruby, but it's pretty cool. So the user base is quite large. Ruby handles it brilliantly. We put all sorts of varnish and Nginx and all sorts of things in front of that. But that's how we do that. And we also have tasks to clean up files, tasks to remove things from the database and stuff like that. Next question. Did that answer your question? Okay. Am I too close? Anyone else? Does anyone have a problem with Ruby? Tough question. Nobody? I say that because in the past, when I was learning it, actually, there's the Rails kids, got a little out of hand. But the Ruby language itself is what I love, and I love Rails, and so. That brings up another point. So I've been programming in isolation for 4 years. I told you, I have just started going to these groups. So my coworker in the Netherlands, we talk 2 hours a day, and I haven't talked to any other developers. And so I am Alice down the rabbit hole, guys. I go down there for hours, and when I come back out, I can see in the dark, and it's crazy. Just like that question about Rails, it's like I took it personally, but I guess no one else did. So it's just an example of utilize your meetup groups, all of them, I live in Norman. It's kind of hard to get out, but I've been to Free Code Camp. I've been to a lot of Kimberly's meetups, and this is my first OKC Ruby meetup, and I should be here. I should be here, guys. And any other questions? Nothing? Nothing. Well, I thank you guys for tolerating this. It's my first presentation, by the way, so I apologize if it's a little rough, because it obviously was. No cats on the screen yet? Okay, good. And thank you.